Hi, and welcome to your Urban Connection. Remember, this is the channel that is often imitated, but is never duplicated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on this show, we bring you stories that you won't find on mainstream media. You won't find this on your local TV channel. You won't find this in your local newspaper, and you won't find it in your local Black newspaper. All right. So now let's get into this story because let me just remind you, folks. First of all, the story I'm going to share with you today is one that's going to leave some of you baffled as to how this happened. It's going to leave some of you very disturbed that it did happen. And then it will leave others of you wondering how often does this happen in America? So let's get into the story. I promised you that I would have a story on child slavery. And that's what I'm going to present to you today. And let me get into it. The story originates in West Virginia, and it entails a wealthy white couple who is accused of using Black adopted kids as slaves. Now, you heard that right. But just to make sure you got it, let me read it once more. A wealthy white couple accused of using Black adopted kids as slaves. And this is in West Virginia. So let's go and talk about this. A West Virginia couple allegedly used their Black adopted children as slaves, locking them in a barn and forcing them to perform farm labor, per Metro News. Now, these two people, this couple, were identified as Donald Ray Lance, 63, and Jeannie K. Whitefeather, 62. They both were initially arrested in October following a wellness check, during which authorities found two of the couple's 5 adopted children who are Black. They were locked in a shed on their Cecilville property. Locked in a shed. Authorities said the shed only had a small porta potty and no running water. A 16-year-old child told authorities that she had been locked in the building for roughly 12 hours. Locked in the building, a 16-year-old said. Now, she also smelled of body odor, according to the authorities. I can imagine so. The teenagers also stated that they were forced to sleep on the concrete floor without a mattress or padding. Ladies and gentlemen, a 25-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 45-year-old, a 55-year-old would be very, very, very uncomfortable sleeping under these conditions, let alone a 14 and a 16-year-old child. This is totally inhumane, right? In court, Whitefeather claimed that the shed was a teenage clubhouse. And the children were not locked inside. However, neighbors also reported that the children were forced to perform farm labor and were not permitted inside the residence. Court document states. So let me get this straight. These people want you to believe that the shed was a teenage clubhouse, but yet the residence was not open nor available for shelter by these Black slaves, Black teenagers. Okay? Unbelievable. Why in the hell would you adopt any child, regardless of color, if you were going to treat them with total disrespect and dignity, deprive them of their dignity, and then claim that you're doing anything wrong? And this is, and let me just say before I go any further, this is not an isolated incident, ladies and gentlemen. This happens more often than you would think in these United States of America. By white adoptees misusing, disrespecting, being inhumane to young Black children. Now let's go on. The couple's indictment alleges they specifically targeted the Black children and forced them to work because of their race. Forced them to work. Does that sound like anything except slavery to you? Kanawha County Clerk Judge Mary Claire Akers says she's never seen an indictment like this in her career. The indictment alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, Akers said. Human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race. And they were used basically as slaves, from what the indictment alleges. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can use the word allege all we want to. And I understand due to our legal system, we have to use that word until they're convicted. But there's all of the evidence that's laid out there before any law enforcement officer, before any judge, before any district attorney, before any jury. They can lay that evidence out there to support these alleged charges. Okay? Lance and Whitefeather have pleaded not guilty to several charges, including human trafficking of a minor child, use of a minor child in forced labor, and child neglect, creating substantial risk of bodily injury or death. Now, let me just say one thing to you. When I talk about the evidence, there was sufficient evidence in this particular case for the judge herself to increase this couple's bond from $200,000 to $500,000. And even that's not enough. Okay? Earlier this month, that happened. So there's plenty of evidence. There's sufficient justification to increase a bond from $200,000 to $500,000. This is not alleged. This is a case of child slavery at the hands of a wealthy white couple, who I might add, racist white couple, because by their actions, you cannot come to any other conclusion. As the case states here, they were specifically targeting the Black children and forced them to work because of their race. So how can they be anything except racist? All right. Along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injuries or death, I don't find the bond to be sufficient. This is the judge, Akers, said of her decision. She didn't find the $200,000 bond to be sufficient. So, ladies and gentlemen, she had to have evidence. Whoever the prosecutor is here, they provided and produced evidence. And I'm assuming that most of this evidence came from neighbors who witnessed this. The neighbors knew that these kids were not allowed to go inside the residence, where there was running water indoor plumbing facilities, the use of restroom and toilet facilities that were available that were not available at this so-called teenage clubhouse that had no running water, and all they had was not even an outhouse, but a they had a what they call them, a porta potty, and that's supposed to be sufficient for two young black teenagers. Okay, yeah, and one has to wonder. Another charge that should have been here. I cannot imagine these children were getting any type of an education. Because if they were, when they would go to school, surely they would have talked to some teachers, some counselors, or even other students. But I have to believe they were not going to any school. They were locked in this facility, only let out to perform farm type labor at no charge. Okay. I'm sure they were not paid a dime and treated like dogs, not like human beings. How in the hell can anybody that wants us to believe that they have any love, any dignity, any credibility, and any intention of providing the type of service to these two children that they told the the adopting agency, that they were going to provide, because they lied through their teeth. And this is just one more reason why adoption agencies are going to have to tighten up their game. You're going to have to do more vetting on these people. You're going to have to start visiting these homes more frequently. You've got to do a better investigation of what type of people you're dealing with, because just because they're wealthy doesn't mean they're righteous. Just because they have money doesn't mean they're going to do the right thing. Because if they got racist attitudes and racist beliefs, they have a motive for adopting these two black kids. Why is it that they didn't have these other three kids performing farm labor? Why is it these other three kids were allowed into the residence, but the two black kids were not? Why is it the three black kids were sleeping on a nice, comfortable bed with a nice, comfortable mattress and plenty of padding and plenty of cover and nice, soft pillows, while the two black kids were sleeping on the concrete floor of the so-called teenage clubhouse with no mattress whatsoever? Hell, that's worse than being in the jail. At least you have some padding, some covering. You have something, not laying on a cold, hard concrete. It's unbelievable. But I want to tell you something. This couple will go to trial on September the 9th. And I sincerely hope, that whoever the judge is, whether or not it's this same woman or not, will lock their ass up for life. They don't deserve to be out here intermingling with other decent human beings, because they're inhuman. They don't know how to treat people humanly, especially if they're black. But I want to say one other thing to you all, right here, right now. It was less than a week ago that I posted on Facebook about a vote that was taken in Washington, D.C. A vote on whether to restore the pro-slavery monuments, Confederate monuments, back to where it was torn down. And every member of the Republican Congress voted against it, including 3 senators from Kansas, which was a free state did not engage or allow slavery, and these three ignoramuses by the names of Ron Estes, Tracy Mann, and Jake LaTurner abandoned all individual principles, if they had any, and voted no to satisfy the political principles of the Republican Party. That's exactly what they did, ladies and gentlemen. How in the hell can you otherwise justify three congresspeople coming from a non-slave state, a free state, to vote in favor of restoring and resurrecting closed slavery monuments, Confederate monuments, back to where they were? How in the hell should we as Black Americans not consider that to be a slap in the face? And how in the hell can we come to any other conclusion other than the fact that you abandoned, if you ever had any, you abandoned all of your individual principles? You showed just how much compassion that you have for African Americans in this country. Why in the hell do you think that so much protesting, so much effort was put forth to remove those damn monuments? What do you think they meant to African Americans? Now, I know what they meant to you, and you've proven by your vote what they really meant to you. But to African Americans, they represented slavery, sir. Sirs, and by your votes, you're showing that you are in favor. I don't care what the hell you say, you're showing by your vote that you're in favor of returning to the days of slavery. And there's nothing you would say that would convince me any differently. Congressman Ron Estes, Congressman Tracy Mann, and Congressman Jake LaTurner. You've shown me where the principles are that you follow and whose principles you believe. And those are the principles of the Republican Party. Now, I asked you all, and I posted the telephone numbers of all three of those congressmen. And I asked you all to give them a phone call, and I posted their office phone numbers. If you agree with me that while they think it's funny, I certainly don't. I think it's anything but funny. I take it very seriously. I'm offended, and I make no bones about it. Now, I went further than make a phone call. I went to Congressman Ron Estes' office on this past Friday. He was not there. I left my card with my name, my phone number, my email address, and the name of my organization with a member of his staff with a message that I wanted to meet with him ASAP. Today is Wednesday. I've not heard from him via telephone, via email, or any other manner. And I might not hear from him. I'm sure that he has an idea of why I want to meet with him. And I'm sure he feels uncomfortable trying to persuade me that he can justify violating his own principles to rush to join his fellow Republicans to jump in and jump on the Republican Party platform and follow their principles. You know what? They don't have any principles either. Just like they don't have any policies how to make things better for the people that put them in office, unless you're rich, a millionaire or a billionaire. That's who they cater to. So I want to give this open invitation to Mr. Ron Estes. Anytime, anywhere, sir. You name it, I'll be there. We need to talk. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said to you, this story that I've just shared with you is not an isolated incident. These kinds of things are going on much more frequently than you are led to believe. But you know what the deal is? You see, the deal is you never hear about them. Just like you would not have heard about this one if it had not been for the internet and the podcast, Your Urban Connection. So you don't hear about the rest of them because the mainstream media doesn't make it a business to tell you about them. Because the mainstream media doesn't give a damn about Black Americans. If you think they do, look in their newsrooms. Look at the newsrooms of the papers, the major papers, the major TV networks, your local papers, your local TV stations. How many stories do you see that don't relate to a strong arm robbery, a murderer, okay, a theft? How many stories do you see on those entities regarding African Americans? Okay? Don't take my word for it. Look for yourself. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back again soon with another interesting show that you'll see only on Your Urban Connection. Thank you for watching. Oh, and by the way, tell your friends and do me a favor. Leave a comment about my position and tell me how you feel about my position on this issue and any other issue. I'd love to hear from you. There's a comment section that you can address right here on this channel on this story. Just go to comments and leave a message. Okay? Thanks for watching, folks. Well,